Welcome back to San Mateo County Today. I'm your host, Marshall Wilson. I'm joined now by Joan Rosas, the superintendent of the Foster City Elementary School District, and Audrey Ng, the president of the school board. They're here to tell us about Measure X, which is a $148 million bond measure that voters in their district are going to be looking at right now with the San Mateo County all-mail-in ballot election. So let's start out by asking, what is Measure X? Joan?
This is a wonderful opportunity for us to tell our community about this measure, and so thank you for having us. We really appreciate it. San Mateo Foster City School District is experiencing a serious overcrowding situation in our schools. Let me give you a couple of examples. In Foster City Elementary School has enough students that they run 3 lunch periods and 3 recesses in order to ensure that the students can get through lunch and be able to play on a playground that provides enough space for them. Brewer Island, for example, was originally built for 350 students. It's now at 700. We've added portables and added more portables. In San Mateo, if you go up the 92, you'll see cranes and you'll see an area that's being redeveloped. Station Green. The students who come from Station Green will go to Sunnybray Elementary School. So our schools in the San Mateo and Foster City Elementary School District are overcrowded. And an example also is that I was asking, how many classrooms do we have? Should we need to open more classes in our district? We have 3 classrooms that we can use at this present time in Foster City. We have 4 that we can use in San Mateo. This will not address the need that's coming. The expected enrollment growth is 200 students every year for the next 10 years.
Well, let me ask you this. How is the money going to be spent to relieve overcrowding? What is going to be done at all these different schools?
Good question, good question. For 18 months, a group called the Next Steps Advisory Committee worked in the communities of Foster City and San Mateo to gather the voices of the community to ask, where should the space be added for these students? The decision was made that the areas in San Mateo where the space was needed most was George Hall Elementary to handle the overcrowding from Bay Meadows, Sunnybray Elementary to handle Station Green, and North Central, where 1,500 students live. We also know that there's a bump up in San Mateo to the middle schools. All 3 middle schools will be affected. So there are additional classrooms being planned for all 3 middle schools. In Foster City, there's a need for an additional school. The schools there have already been built beyond capacity. So the idea is to build at Charter Square, to build a 4th school, and to add space at Foster City Middle School, Bowditch Middle School.
So Audrey, let's get you involved in this discussion. What are you hearing from the parents out there and the people in the community about the bond measure? If you can tell us more also about how they want to see the money spent or not spent. So I know there's an opposition. We'll get that in a moment. What do you hear out there in the community?
People at the elementary schools already feel the overcrowding. They see the traffic, they see how dangerous it is for students to walk to school or ride their bikes to school because parents are coming from outside of the neighborhood to drop off their children. Because, for example, in Foster City, the Foster City Elementary is overcrowded already, as Dr. Rosas explained. There are almost 900 students there. So more students who should be going there, who live in that area, are being overflowed to another school across town, Audubon Elementary. So parents are driving across town to get their children there, which again makes it more dangerous for the people who live there and are trying to walk to the school. So a number of parents are already aware of our overcrowded situation. At the middle schools, at Bowditch Middle Schools, 4 classrooms were declared uninhabitable. It was condemned this summer. So that middle school is already at over 1,000. I think we're at 1,070 students right now. It's only built for about 900 students. So we're beyond capacity there. Parents are feeling it, and their children are on those playgrounds and being impacted because there's not enough space for children to play. As Dr. Rosas explained, there are some schools with 3 periods, and not even periods, there are times scheduled for for lunch and for recess. It's just so impacted that parents are feeling it, the students are feeling it with all the lack of space for them to play and to relieve a little bit of their energy before coming back to the classroom for educational experience.
I have a 7-year-old myself, and I do see that need for them to get out and run and just get that energy out there.
And I would add another piece to that, schools often would like to have an additional flex room where parents might be able to store and bring kids in for art. We have Art in Action program. We don't have the additional classroom space for Art in Action, for example. So where do students come in for rainy day PE? Where do they do the additional art? Where would they lay out a science lab? These extra classrooms are not available.
So the opposition wrote on the official ballot measure that in 2010, voters in the district did pass a parcel text to support smaller class sizes. So that's already been passed. And then a few years ago, the district did go out with a bond measure that was defeated by the voters.
Yes, it was.
So can you tell us what that parcel tax has been used for and what has changed now about the bond measure that's now before the voters?
Right, the parcel tax was funds for day-to-day running of the schools. And we were able to avoid furlough days that some districts had to do because of the budget cuts during the recession. So that's what the parcel tax went towards. Now, you also mentioned a bond that did not pass. Well, what we did after the bond was we put together a volunteer committee of community members to study our overcrowding. We still have overcrowding. So this committee of community members studied the issues, looked at the overcrowding situation, and engaged the community in a broad dialogue about what they want to see happen in their schools. We're in this together, and we know that our schools are overcrowded. Now, how do we address that? So we held 95 community sessions. We invited the public, we talked to them. We had an online survey that over 4,400 people completed and submitted. We looked at all those responses, and what we have before us, Measure X, the projects on Measure X are reflective of the feedback that we got from the community. And we have broad-based support for Measure X. We have elected officials who support it. Senator Jerry Hill has endorsed, Assemblymember Kevin Mullen has endorsed, Supervisor Carol Groom, San Mateo Mayor Maureen Fresquet, Foster City Mayor Art Kiesel. We have community members, business leaders, all supporting our bond measure. So we are very confident that this is what the community wants, and this is what we're bringing forth to the voters.
Now, if I live in your district and I've got, say, my elementary school down the street, and I want to know what's specifically going to happen to a particular school, how do I get that kind of information?
That information is available on our website. So we have a link that says Measure X. You click on Measure X and it'll take you to a page that explains what Measure X will do and the projects that are part of Measure X.
Now let's get back to the dollars and cents is what the opposition is coming about. What does this mean for the actual property owner in the San Mateo Foster City Elementary School District? It's a $148 million bond measure. As a homeowner, as a property owner, what does that mean to me?
It will be $14.80 per $100,000 assessed value. So for example, you bought your home several years ago, say it's worth $500,000. So you take the $14.80, I'll round it to 15, a little bit easier to do, times 5, $75 for the whole year is what you will pay. So again, if you want to break that down per month, it's just a couple of dollars per month is what you pay.
The assessed valuation of the house, not necessarily today's market value of the home.
Not the market value, it's your assessed value. Yes, thank you for the clarification.
I know that always gets a little bit tricky with people as well. What are we seeing in Foster City and San Mateo? And is this something that was predicted a number of years ago? I know in the peninsula we had back in the baby boom era, huge number of student growth. Then in the 80s and 90s there was a big decline, and now we're really back to this boom, which I think we're really seeing across the Bay Area.
We are.
So was this predicted, and did we know we had to prepare for this?
We do have a demographer that works with the district, and he gives us projections out 10 years. And this is the reason that there was a previous bond request. However, as board member our trustee has mentioned, it did not pass because it maybe wasn't the very best plan. So that was why the community went back out and looked for another way to approach the problem. So it has been something that's been going on for a while.
And you're the biggest elementary school district in the county,
Yes,
correct?
we are.
How many middle schools, elementary schools, and tell us a little bit more about the district itself and some of your demographics.
Okay, 16 elementary schools across San Mateo and Foster City, 4 middle schools, and I guess I should include that one of those elementary schools is actually a K-8,
Yes.
so we've experimented with that programming also. It's a very popular structure. So that's our school district demographic.
So if you do have additional classrooms, is that going to be more teachers as well? Are we going to see a significant rise in the number of staff members, and how will that be paid for as well?
So increasing enrollment also comes with increasing dollars for the students, so then that relates to how you manage the staffing.
The money you're getting from the state for
Correct.
So that'll fall in line.
Yes.
Do you anticipate there'll be another measure to come up and help pay for that staffing level, or are you basically trying to care for the brick and mortar now, and the staffing will come later?
Well, the bond covers facilities, and we are limited by that. We cannot pay for salaries with that bond measure.
Okay.
And the funding for staffing comes from the state, so it's a completely different funding stream.
Well, I want to thank you both for being here. Any final comments? We have about a minute left.
We're just very excited about this opportunity to increase the facilities in our district because our schools are overcrowded, and there is a serious issue, and it's here and it's now.
Yes, we definitely need to do this. We have more students than we have facilities to accommodate. We should have been starting our construction already. Unfortunately, we are at a point where we are beyond capacity. We need to do this.
All right, terrific. Well, I want to thank you, Audrey and Joan, for joining us on San Mateo County today.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.